In the freezing rain, a solitary black man happened upon two white little girls trembling and huddled under a torn plastic raincoat by the roadside. Without hesitation, he took off his only coat and wrapped it around them. When the Child Intake Center reported it was full, he quietly signed the emergency foster papers despite struggling to get by in his old wooden house. 15 years later, those two girls, now grown, stepped onto a stage to honor the man. Before we dive into this story, let us know where you're watching from. We love to hear your thoughts. The old truck groaned. Damon Carter steered it through Charleston's outskirts, the autumn rain a cold, biting curtain. Headlights blurred, scarce. It was past midnight, and exhaustion from a long shift clung to him like a heavy weight. 35, with a rugged face and early gray, Damon longed for his old wooden house, for its familiar quiet, his life. A steady rhythm of broken machines and four silent walls, unchanging. He turned onto a deserted road overgrown with wild bushes. Then a faint cry pierced the rain and wind, making him slam on the brakes. Damon's heart seized. He knew that sound, a cry of pure, desperate loneliness. He killed the engine. The sudden silence made the rain's drumming clearer, and the crying too, sharper, tearing at the night. He stepped out, his old canvas jacket already soaking. His feet sank into the mud as he moved toward the tall grass. He pushed aside wet branches. The sight froze him. Two tiny girls, maybe 5, huddled together, shivering. Blonde hair matted with mud, faces pale and trembling. A torn plastic raincoat covered little of their frail bodies, exposing thin, drenched clothes and old, frayed sneakers. Their little toes, blue with cold, peeked out. In their panicked eyes, Damon saw the primal fear of abandoned children, the sudden, bewildering absence of adults, and profound solitude. Their gaze locked on Damon like two young birds lost in a storm. Damon fumbled for his phone, calloused fingers dialing 911. Police department, a tired voice answered. He tried to keep his voice steady. I found two children abandoned on Old Mill Road. It's raining hard. They're freezing. The voice on the other end was flat, almost robotic. We have an accident on the highway. Short-staffed. It might be 45 minutes before we can get there. Damon clenched the phone. 45 minutes. He couldn't leave them, not for another half hour in this freezing rain. Anxiety rose, mixed with helplessness. He knew his tall, lean frame, his dark skin in this white town. Any move, even the right one, could be twisted. He had to be wary. He hesitated, looking at the children. Their fear stopped him from turning away. Damon called Pastor James, the one man in town he trusted. The phone rang, stretching his indecision. Finally, the pastor's calm voice, "Hello, Damon." "What's wrong, son?" Damon explained briefly. Pastor James was silent, then steady. "Do what your heart tells you, Damon. God will guide you." About 40 minutes later, police lights flashed through the night. Damon still stood, his coat soaked, shielding the two small beings. The officer stepped out, looked at Damon, then at the girls. "Emergency," he said wearily. "The child reception center is overflowing." After a moment, he reluctantly agreed. "We'll let you take them home temporarily. A CPS worker will check tomorrow morning." Damon nodded, his heart heavy. The next morning, a blue car pulled up outside Damon's old house. Monica Bell, CPS worker, stepped in, her eyes scanning the faded wooden walls and old roof tiles. The house inside was surprisingly neat. Monica walked down the hall. "Do you live alone, Mr. Carter?" Damon nodded. "Yes." Monica took careful notes. "What do you do? What's your life like?" Damon briefly told her, an orphan childhood, years fending for himself, fixing machines. "We've looked into Ellie and June's parents," Monica said, her voice dropping. "They died in a car accident due to opioid influence. Initial reports suggest that in a moment of panic, or not fully coherent, they tried to bring the girls to a place they thought would be safer." Perhaps an old bus stop nearby before the serious accident on the main road. Monica looked at Damon, her eyes weary. The girls likely perceived the chaos, the loud noises, and the sudden changes in the adults before being left alone. At this age, they don't fully grasp death, but they know their parents are gone and aren't coming back, she continued. Because of the confusion at the accident scene and no immediate report about the children, they were left on that deserted road. This is a story all too common in West Virginia. We haven't found any direct relatives. The foster care system is overwhelmed, a consequence of the opioid crisis devastating this state. Monica continued, we're proposing you sign an emergency care agreement to keep the girls for 7 days. We'll keep searching for a suitable family. Damon felt an invisible pressure. He was single, no kids. The worry of neighbors' eyes was constant. He saw them behind curtains, whispering. He knew their words. The black man with 2 white children. Prejudice unspoken was a dark cloud. Monica called his auto shop. Damon heard her confirm his reliability, how he'd fix cars for free for the poor. Monica looked at him, waiting. Damon nodded. Signed. I'll do it. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew he couldn't leave them. He remembered his own loneliness, abandoned at a bus station at 10. He wouldn't let Ellie and June feel that. Monica left. 3 strangers in an old wooden house. Ellie and June were silent, clinging to each other on the sofa, small hands clenched white as if terrified of being separated. Their panic-stricken eyes lingered, but Damon felt a thread connect him to these 2 tiny beings. He knew this was just the beginning. That morning, weak sunlight slanted through the kitchen window, landing on Damon's table. The faint smell of brown rice porridge filled the air, simple, comforting. He watched June. Her blonde hair was still messy from sleep, but her big round blue eyes held no more panic. June quietly approached him, a small hand holding another spoon, carefully placing it beside his bowl. She said nothing, just looked at him shyly. But in her eyes, Damon saw a new glint, a fragile trust blossoming. In that moment, warmth spread in his chest, easing some tension. Last night, June had woken whimpering, eyes wide in the dark, searching for something lost. Damon knew he couldn't work. He called his boss. I need time off, Bill, Damon said. About the kids I found. Bill grunted, sympathetic but hesitant. Try to resolve it quickly, Damon. Work's waiting. Damon accepted the lost income, though his finances were already tight. Monthly bills were a burden. Now 2 more mouths. He saw a stack of bills on the old wooden table, helplessness rising. The old water pump whirred in the wall, amplifying his worry. But he looked at Ellie and June eating quietly. He couldn't abandon them. The world was full of prejudice. He had to shield them from the scrutinizing eyes he knew too well. Days later, Monica Bell returned. She sat across from Damon, a thick file on her lap. The foster care system is overwhelmed, she said, voice weary, dark circles under her eyes. The opioid crisis leaves too many orphaned children. We haven't found a suitable family for Ellie and June, she paused. We're proposing you continue to care for them for another 30 days under fictive kin temporary care. A rare exception. We think you've done well. Hesitated. Single. No kids. Neighbor's eyes. He saw them peeking. Heard the unspoken whispers. Damon's hesitation lingered until June, with surprising determination, placed another spoon in his porridge bowl. Just then, Ellie, eyes still teary, whispered, "Do you have a mommy?" The question struck deep, a hidden place in Damon's heart, where memories of his own childhood lay. Fears and calculations vanished. He looked at Ellie, his gaze unusually gentle. "I don't have a mommy. I'm just like you," he said softly, suppressing a heavy sigh. Ellie looked at him wide-eyed, searching for truth. He nodded. It wasn't just a nod to Monica, but a promise to these 2 tiny children, and to himself. An invisible, strong bond began to form. To help them integrate, Damon took the girls to the community meal at the local church. He knew the church was the heart of West Virginia, where people gathered. Stepping into the warm hall, he felt the scrutinizing eyes. "Good heavens, who's that?" he heard. A tall, thin black man in a worn coat with two white girls, their blonde hair matted, clothes ill-fitting. Whispers spread. But then Mrs. Grace, kind, Grace-mild, approached, her face beaming. "Welcome Damon and these lovely granddaughters," she said, her voice warm as winter sun. She hugged the girls, giving them clean, though used, clothes. Pastor James, Damon's lifeline that rainy night, publicly welcomed them, his warm words dispelling the tension. Gradually, eyes softened, hesitant smiles appeared, especially after Pastor James spoke skillfully of love transcending color. That night, Ellie's nightmare returned. She screamed in the dark, calling for Mommy, her small face pale and sweaty. June's whimpers echoed from the next bed. Damon, with his rough, calloused hands, felt clumsy trying to comfort them. "It's okay, baby Ellie," he said, "sleep heavy. Uncle D's here." He held his grandfather's old teddy bear, his only keepsake, and began to tell stories, his own childhood, abandoned at a bus station at 10, years of wandering, the kindness of a truck driver. His voice was deep, resonant, filled with emotion, but gentle. Ellie calmed, sobs less frequent. "Really, Uncle D," she whispered. "You don't have a mommy either?" Damon nodded. "That's right." She snuggled deeper into his embrace. This was more than a story. It was a bond, the start of a deep connection where shared pain built trust. Damon held them close, feeling their steady breaths. He knew he couldn't give up. The walk to the small-town grocery store wasn't far, but every step Damon took carried an invisible tension. Ellie and June walked beside him, their blonde hair still a bit messy. Their clothes, though clean, still too large. Damon wore his familiar old coat, his faded blue baseball cap partly hiding his tired eyes. He tried to keep his face calm, but he knew the eyes were on them. He was too familiar with it, the scrutiny, the judgment for his skin color in this white community. As they entered, a police car unexpectedly pulled up outside. Damon's heart jumped, pounding. The officer stepped out, eyes sweeping over Damon, then stopping on the two girls. "Hello, sir," he said, voice even, eyes suspicious. Someone reported a suspicious man with children. Damon's body tensed, hands clenched white, but he forced calm. "I have the paperwork," he said, slowly pulling out the temporary care document from CPS. The officer took it, skimmed, then looked at Damon as if searching for deceit. June clung to Damon's hand, her big round eyes welling with fear, her body trembling like a little bird. Damon squeezed her hand gently, trying to reassure her, though deep hurt rose within him. He knew they didn't need to feel this. "Excuse me, I'll call my supervisor," the officer said, pulling out his phone. Monica Bell had to come. When things settled, Damon told Monica, voice soft, shaky, "I just don't want the girls to see that. They've been through so much." Monica nodded, empathetic. She gently placed a hand on his shoulder, a rare but meaningful gesture. "I understand, Damon. You're doing very well. Just trust me." The grocery store incident was a harsh wake-up call. Back home, Damon sat on the old wooden chair. Utility bills piled on the table, a constant reminder of his finances. He'd been out of work too long. The auto shop couldn't guarantee taking him back. Life's pressures crashed down, heavier than ever. He often woke in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, mind racing with money worries, their uncertain future. Then one day, Monica Bell returned. She didn't mention the incident, but her face was somber. "Damon," she began, voice serious. "It's time for the official guardianship process. That means a psychological evaluation, a thorough financial review, and we'll interview your neighbors. Monica. There will be difficult questions. Damon, about your past, your long-term care, and importantly, why a single man like you wants to raise 2 children not his blood." Everything was more complex, more exhausting than he'd imagined. The temporary agreement's clock was ticking, and Damon felt an invisible noose tightening. On long nights, Damon sat on his porch, staring into the rural darkness. He thought of Calvin's advice, his best friend from the shop, a mechanic with curly hair and a deep voice. "Listen, Damon," Calvin had said, worried. "You're not their father. Give them back to CPS. You'll have less trouble. You don't have to carry their lives." Damon knew Calvin meant well. Wanted him to avoid financial hardship and prejudice. He'd asked himself 100 times if he was doing the right thing. Could he face all this? Be a non-biological father to 2 kids? Indecision gnawed at him, keeping him sleepless. But then one afternoon, as Damon wrestled with a leaky kitchen faucet, tools clanking, giggles came from the doorway. Ellie and June entered, small fingers muddy from play, blonde hair matted from running. They said nothing, just held out a crumpled paper. It was a crayon drawing, crude, but full of affection. 3 figures, a tall, thin man, 2 blonde girls holding hands. Below, Ellie had scrawled, "Uncle D," and a tiny heart. Damon looked at the drawing, then at the girls, hot tears suddenly streaming down his rugged cheeks. The leaking stopped. All worries vanished. That was the moment doubt disappeared. He couldn't abandon this tiny family. Couldn't let them feel lost again. The drawing was a silent affirmation of a home they had chosen. Days later, Monica called. "Damon. Good news." Her voice carried a rare lightness. "Your guardianship application has been reviewed by CPS and will be submitted to the court under special guardianship." Damon exhaled in relief, an invisible weight lifting. "What does that mean?" he asked, hopeful. "It's a rare exception for cases without blood relatives," Monica explained. "But Pastor James and Mrs. Grace advocated strongly. They wrote very sincere letters. Still, the process will take a long time, maybe a year in West Virginia. You'll still have to prove your financial capability and stability." Damon nodded, though Monica couldn't see him. The road was long, challenging, but he wasn't alone. He had Ellie and June. He'd do anything to keep them, to build a real home for these tiny souls. He was determined. The pale golden light of an autumn December afternoon streamed through the church window, illuminating a simple birthday table with a small cake. The scent of sweet cake and candles wafted through the air. Damon stood there, his faded blue baseball cap still on, but his rugged face was now softened into a rare, radiant smile. Beside him stood Ellie and June, both beaming in new dresses, their blonde hair neatly brushed, looking like adorable little angels. It was their 6th birthday. Mrs. Grace, the kind elderly woman with her gray hair in a bun, quickly snapped a photo. "Look here, Damon," she said cheerfully. Soon after that photo, Damon, the 2 girls, and their happy smiles appeared on the town's community Facebook group. Mrs. Grace also posted a warm caption, telling the story of Damon's kindness, the tall, thin man in the worn coat, who had not hesitated to extend a hand to 2 orphaned children. The post quickly spread, not as breaking news, but as a quiet story, whispered from heart to heart, carrying the message that love can mend all cracks. While there were still lingering doubts about an outsider raising children, many local residents began to change their perspectives, recognizing the value of kindness transcending prejudice. The spread of goodwill led to unexpected changes. One day, Miss Sarah, a local teacher with neatly tied brown hair and eager eyes, contacted Damon. "Hello, Mr. Carter," Miss Sarah said openly. "I am Ellie and June's teacher. I saw your story on Facebook. It's very touching." She offered to have him share his story at a small community event at the church. Damon, naturally a man of few words, felt awkward. He wasn't used to speaking in front of crowds, but he knew this was an opportunity for people to better understand him and Ellie and June. Standing on the old wooden podium under the gaze of his neighbors, Damon's voice was deep and resonant, trembling slightly at first. He didn't elaborate, simply stating, "I was once a child no one wanted. I couldn't let these children be that way." His simple, heartfelt words touched the hearts of many in the audience. A wave of silent empathy and support spread, solidifying the community's trust in this rugged man. He saw a few neighbors who had previously looked at him with scrutinizing eyes, now nod subtly in agreement. Despite the support, raising children was not easy. Ellie in particular was very timid at school. She often clung to Damon each morning, avoiding the eyes of other children. "She's afraid of being left again," Miss Sarah told Damon during a parent-teacher conference. "We'll try to help her integrate." One time, when Damon picked up the girls, another parent, Mrs. Shirley May, known for being nosy, casually remarked upon seeing Damon holding the girls' hands, "Oh, these two live with you now? I thought they had relatives." Damon's face tensed. He took a deep breath, trying to keep calm. He knew it was a prejudiced remark, but before he could reply, Mrs. Grace had stepped forward, gently taking Mrs. Shirley's arm. "Shirley, you know, family isn't just blood. Damon is a hero to these children." Mrs. Shirley was silent, her eyes darting away. Damon felt a wave of warmth surge through him. He spent many evenings talking with Ellie, encouraging her to tell him about school. "Have you made any friends yet?" Damon asked gently. Ellie shook her head, looking down. Damon just sighed, then patiently told her funny stories about his own school days, trying to soothe the fear in her heart. A few days later, an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Mabel, Mrs. Grace's close friend, brought over a hot pot of chicken soup, placing it on the old wooden kitchen table. "Here, Damon," she said. "I made a bit too much. You and the girls eat it to warm up." She just smiled, not saying much, but Damon felt a warmth spread through him. These were small gestures, but they showed gradual acceptance and support from those around him, easing the burden Damon was carrying. Not long after, Monica Bell called. "Damon, good news." Her voice carried a rare lightness. "Your guardianship application has been reviewed by the court under special guardianship, an extremely rare exception for cases without blood relatives." Damon exhaled. "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means you have a great chance to officially be the legal guardian of the girls," Monica explained. "But you'll still have to continue proving your financial capability and stability throughout the process." Damon nodded. The road was still long, but he saw the light. Late one evening, worry struck again when Ellie began complaining of a severe earache. Damon rushed her to the hospital. At the reception desk, the hospital staff requested legal guardianship papers. "I have papers from CPS," Damon said, trying to keep calm, his voice strained. Monica had quickly assisted by sending temporary confirmation via email. Still, Damon felt the suspicious gaze of a female staff member as she looked at his worn denim jacket, then glanced at Ellie's blonde hair. He stayed awake all night in the hospital waiting room, his calloused hands clasped together, listening to the nurse's footsteps and the steady hum of machines. Every passing moment was a test. Finally, when the doctor came out, his face tired but his eyes full of empathy, he looked at Damon and gently asked, "Everything all right, Dad?" Damon paused for a moment, his heart seemingly stopping, then softly nodded, his voice a low whisper. "Yes." It was the first time he had embraced that title so naturally and completely, a meaningful moment that marked not only acceptance from others, but also from himself, solidifying his role in the girls' lives. 15 years later, at the Community Protector Awards ceremony held ceremoniously in Charleston, the brilliant stage lights shone down on two young white women. They stood there, their blonde hair now neatly tied up, their faces radiant and confident. When the announcer called their names, both stepped onto the stage. "We want to thank Uncle D," June said, her voice, now that of a nurse with determined eyes, echoing throughout the auditorium. A warm round of applause erupted. Ellie, now a social worker with a gentle smile, continued, her eyes sweeping toward the front row, where Damon sat, his hair now strewn with gray. "Uncle D didn't just give us a home," Ellie said, her voice catching slightly. "He gave us a reason to keep going, to live meaningful lives." She paused for a moment, taking a breath. "And today, we want to announce a small community scholarship named the Uncle D Scholarship, funded by our savings." She looked at June, and both smiled, tears glistening in their eyes. This scholarship will help orphan children in West Virginia have the opportunity to go to school, so they know that there's always a hand ready to help. That family isn't just blood, but unconditional love. The applause erupted, and Damon felt his eyes sting, a warm pride spreading through his chest. Many years passed since that ceremony. Damon, now an old man, his hair completely white, and his rugged face deeply etched with the lines of time and worries, but his eyes still held a kind sparkle. He still sat on his familiar wooden chair on his porch, gazing into the distance. Before him was the majestic view of the Appalachian Mountains, dark green under the sunset. Life had changed so much, but this wooden porch remained his peaceful sanctuary where he had built a family from the impossible. Suddenly, a car pulled up on the dirt road in front. It was Ellie and June. They stepped out of the car, no longer the little girls from long ago, but now grown, steadfast women, bringing their own children with them. The small blonde-haired children ran toward him, exclaiming, "Grandpa." Ellie and June sat beside him on the porch, telling him about their work, about their little ones. Damon listened, his deep-set eyes sparkling with joy. "Is Mrs. Monica doing well?" Damon asked June. June nodded. "Yes, she's still at CPS, still helping cases like ours back then," she said. "Your story has inspired so many people, both within and outside the social work field." Ellie looked at Damon, her eyes full of gratitude. "You know, Uncle D, when I was little, I was always afraid of being left again. Afraid you would disappear like my parents." Damon took her hand, now the hand of a woman. "Never, my girls," he promised. "Family is here, my dears, forever." Damon slowly opened an old wooden box placed beside him. Inside was the three-person family drawing Ellie and June had made for him all those years ago. The paper had yellowed, but the crude drawings of Uncle D, tall and thin, and the two blonde-haired girls were still clear. He gently ran his hand over the drawing, a contented smile spreading across his wrinkled but brightly happy face. "I gave up a lot to keep you," he said, his voice deep and full of emotion. "But I gained a family, and that's all I ever needed." The fiery red sunset descended over the Appalachian Mountains, painting the sky in warm shades of orange and purple. The clear laughter of the children, Ellie and June's conversations, and Damon's contented smile blended together, forming a peaceful symphony. On that old wooden porch, under the twilight, a family not bound by blood, but connected by a stronger bond than any, enjoyed their reunion. Damon's life, from a solitary man, had blossomed into a garden of love, proving that unconditional kindness and empathy can heal all wounds, building a community and a family full of hope. Their story isn't just about survival, but about finding the true meaning of connection and humanity, even in the harshest of circumstances. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.